Show on Inspire 105.1 FM. My name is Imrana Mahmood. I hope you have had a wonderful morning so far. I'm really, really delighted to have an amazing guest on the show today. We are joined by the founder and a brilliant kind of entrepreneur, I guess would be the right thing, Fallaq. So she is a scientist and the founder of Skylight Lounge in Bradford. Her journey began when she wanted to create a space to unleash her creativity to craft exceptional experiences. At Skylight Lounge, they transformed from a relaxed cafe during the day to a vibrant social hub by night, serving fresh pastries, special coffee, and more. Their space offers a little bit of everything: a co-working area, a mini art gallery, a book corner, and even a booth for meetings. She's thrilled to bring this unique concept to Bradford and create a community spot where everyone feels welcome. So I'm now going to say welcome to Fallaq. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
How are you doing today?
Good, alhamdulillah. Yeah, just in between kind of managing the cafe. I've just kind of pulled myself away a little bit.
Yes, no, and I can imagine, obviously, it's kind of like a new venture, which sounds really, really exciting. I've been following so much of what you've been working on and everything you're doing kind of on social media. So maybe just my first question, I guess, for our listeners is, what's inspired you to bring the Skylight Lounge into existence?
It was a couple of things. So I'm very passionate about coffee. As I got kind of, even as a consumer over the last 10-15 years around uni time. So that was something that kind of the interest just kept building, and I kept trying to find more, like information on, and was always going to like coffee tasting events and things like that. But also I love cafe culture. I love being in a cafe. I love cafe hopping. If I'm traveling, I will go, like look for the independence and just see the vibe and things like that. And then I think what really kind of pushed it was when I became a remote worker in my day job. And so I was going to different cafes to like work from there because I kind of missed all the social interaction. And it was just me getting cabin fever at home. And I just felt like there was something missing, especially, so I lived in Birmingham for a few years. And then when I moved back to up north, there was a lot missing here. Especially like a good coffee place that serves like specialty. You'd have to go into Leeds for that, or Manchester. And then it being halal as well. So before the boycott, I spent a lot of time in Starbucks only because it was convenient. It was open till late, but I didn't thoroughly enjoy the coffee. I only drank the blonde roast. And I think I've always wanted to like open a bistro. Me and my brother used to say it when we were young, but he's venturing into other things. And one day I just thought, like, why don't I just do this? Like, I've got so many ideas. I want to unleash my creativity, which I felt like was being suppressed in the other parts of my life. I just sold a house. I had little bit of money come from that, not enough to start a business, but yeah. And then I think Allah just opened doors for me when the idea kind of came into fruition. I ended up just talking to the right people, the right friends, and before I knew it, I was pitching ideas to investors and writing a business plan.
That is so amazing. And I love the two kind of concepts of kind of coffee and creativity. And that, this sounds amazing. Like, subhanAllah, like you said, I guess sometimes it is that thing of you make an intention, and like you said, Allah opens doors, and, he kind of paves the way. And I think it's fantastic to hear about that. I do have one question though, right? So I'm not much of a coffee drinker. I love the smell of coffee, but I can't quite I don't know, there's something about, just, yeah, I mean, I guess it's different for everybody. Have you always kind of drunk coffee, or, is there a special type of coffee? I mean, I'm thinking about any listeners who maybe don't have that much knowledge. Yeah, like how, where do you start? Because you do get different types. You go into cafes and there's so many choices. So
Yeah.
just a bit of insight into that.
No, actually, I've not always drunk coffee. The only like I was like you, exactly like you, love the smell of it. I could have it in a cake.
Mm,
I could even have it in chocolate. But when it came to drinking it, it was just a big no.
mm,
The only coffee that I would have, which I didn't even realize I was drinking coffee, was in like frappuccinos.
mm,
Um, but then when I went to uni, one of my friends, he loved coffee, and then my other friends, they would go to like Costa in our break between lectures, and I just felt left out
mm,
because I was always trying a coffee or different types, but they kind of like talked me through it, and they were like, you can get a single shot, or why don't you try it like this if you like a frappuccino. And so I was literally just trying different types until I kind of found a balance of flavors. So initially, the coffees that I started drinking were like quite sweet and milky, single shot, and I would be the annoying customer that would ask for about 10 different alterations. um but yeah, that's how it started, and up until like recently I kind of stopped all sweeteners and stopped with the sweeter kind of coffees, and actually started drinking the real thing. But the more I got into it, I realized like that like Starbucks and all these mainstream coffee chains, they actually tend to serve dark roast, and because it's so obviously they're such a big chain, they have to like standardize all their processes and things like that. But specialty coffee is entirely different. It's closer to like there is a big science behind it. Um, the closest thing I can compare it to is like, obviously we don't drink alcohol, but like the way the science behind the wines and the different the cup sizes, and like how when you see people swishing them, and it's very very similar. The cup size matters, everything matters, the humidity, there's so much to think about.
mm,
But I have this thing where basically I feel like I can convert anybody into drinking coffee, and I've done it with so many people, and
mm.
like I have a good track record. One of my cousins, he never drank coffee, never liked it, and he's coming in daily for a white mocha now. But basically I just tailor it to what the customer
Mm.
likes, and then try to think of something that they, like a balance of flavors that they would be interested in. So for example, if they like chocolate, I would like recommend a mocha, and then I'd probably start off with like a single shot of coffee, see how they like it. And then before you know it, they're just having the real thing.
I really love the way you kind of manipulate people into coffee. I love it. And I would love to be converted. I just need to obviously come to Bradford, come to Skylight Lounge, and obviously have some recommendations from you. And actually I'm so fascinated because I've never really stopped to think. You're right. Obviously there's different types, and the cup size. You even mentioned humidity, I think. I mean, gosh. So like, do you
Yeah.
have to, before kind of setting up this, kind of business, did you have to do much research? Obviously, we're on the book club show. Did you have to do a lot of reading, or was it very much more kind of hands-on and kind of just literally kind of tasting your way through? I'm really interested in what kind of went on behind the scenes.
I think the best research, sorry, and the most natural research was the fact that I was a cafe hopper. And like sitting in cafes, you become observant in like the customers, what they like, the vibe, what the differences. And so from a market research point of view, I think I got all my knowledge from that side of things, just being and seeing the trends change as well over the last few years. And and things like that. For example, there was a massive increase of people coming into coffee shops to work with their laptops and study. You know, like amongst the younger generation, coffee's become really hip and popular. So I kind of just noticed all of that myself and jotted all that down. From a coffee perspective, again, because I was just so interested in it and always looking for new things. Me and my mum kind of coincidentally went to a coffee tasting event that, you know, and that was in Bradford, I think it was in the National Media Museum. And that's where we took sips of coffee and, you know, learned about the kind of single origins and things like that. And then I went to Bali. I did one there. And a couple of others, and then I just started researching it. I went to a lot of roasteries. I sampled a lot of different coffees. I started to learn about like the light roast, the dark roast, you know, robusta, arabica. There's so much. And then I did like a barista course with my coffee suppliers. So they're a specialty coffee supplier. They started off in Leeds, and they're growing day by day, and they're super ethical in terms of like the farming and things like that. And that really aligned with my values, you know, with being a Muslim. Um, so I did a barista course with them and learned so much. It was very intensive, but it was everything that I really needed to know.
No, that's so amazing. The fact that if you've traveled and had to, like you said, you know, I guess it's kind of almost kind of action live kind of research, which is just really and obviously when I read out the introduction initially, obviously there was mention of the skylight lounge itself and the fact that it's kind of not just about coffee, like it's about creativity as well. So why was it important for you to kind of have that as part of that experience, I guess, you know, for customers? Have you always been someone who's been creative? Are there particular books that you were, when you were younger, that you really enjoyed, that has kind of inspired, I guess, the journey?
Yeah, 100%. With the creativity, because science is like my other passion, there's no real room for creativity in science unless you're in like like kind of chocolate scientist and things like that, which I very nearly did. But I felt like I needed, or I was losing my creativity, like my passions outside of that, and I wanted to kind of do something where I get to design and I get to create and I get to do all these things. And like I'd say creativity and community were like the biggest factors for me. I wanted to kind of bridge the gap between like creativity and the community and kind of create a third space. And I feel like it's happening. And what I've noticed in the last few weeks is that from meeting I have a really wide range of customers, is that everyone's looking for a belonging, everyone's looking for a way to connect. And whether that's a book club or an open mic night, everyone's kind of looking for their own little niche and way to connect with others. So the book club has really, really popped off. We've had so much interest, and it really is just about meeting other like-minded people, kind of sharing the perspectives of the book and connecting over literature. I've always been an avid reader. I started in my teens. It was with all the Jacqueline Wilson books, and I think I read nearly every single one. And then I first read I was probably too young to read that book, to be fair, but it was The Boy Called It. So that was my first nonfiction, and then I kind of got a bit obsessed with kind of real life stories. So I read a few of those. But I thought, what a wonderful way. And I'm trying to it's not through books, but in whichever way people want. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, you know, even myself, I mean, I guess I share a background with you in the sense that I used to be a science teacher. And
Oh
now,
wow.
though, I think a lot of what I guess I dedicate my time to is kind of creating creative spaces. I run a book club, and I mean, I have to tell you, one of the biggest challenges at the moment is me finding a venue that really gets it, you know, like really understands what kind of a book club needs, and, you know, this type of space we need, and, you know, all these different things. So it's really wonderful to hear that you're not just providing space, like you said, for book club, but so many different kind of activities and creative platforms as well. And I guess maybe like my next question is like how you've so you've kind of talked a little bit obviously about the fact that you need to do a bit of research and upskilling, but in terms of like providing space for artists, because if I'm correct, you also have kind of artworks that are displayed. I think even customers have the option to purchase them. Is that right, if they want? And again, how does that feed into the type of environment that you're hoping to create? And especially, you know, in a city like Bradford, I think it recently got, is it kind of the city of culture?
Yeah,
Something as well. So
yeah.
there's
The
quite a
city
lot
of
going on.
culture.
Yeah, so there's a lot going on, isn't there? And yeah, and I guess, you know, what part, I guess, do you want to play in terms of, providing that kind of platform for artists as well?
Yeah, well, my brother is an artist. He's like, I've always loved the arts, but it was more of a hobby for me, and I was pushed towards the science route. But yeah, I remember at the time I got offered a scholarship for Northern Contemporary Dance, but it just wasn't.
Mm.
Sorry, London School of Contemporary Dance. My brother went to the Northern School of Contemporary Dance. But I didn't obviously accept it because I knew that it just wouldn't align with
Mm.
my religious values and things like that. So yeah, I went down the science route, but I felt like them arts were kind of suppressed. But with my brother, he just stayed true to himself, and you know, he's a director, he's an actor, he's a singer, he's a dancer, he does a lot of spoken word, and it's very like singing, poetry, arts is really big amongst our family. Like my granddad absolutely loves singing and poetry and like Sufi poetry and things like that. My mom, majority of my family can sing, and we do. So it's things like that. And then with my brother kind of looking for spaces like that, and him telling me like how much of it is missing. Um, that was just, yeah, I just thought it needs to be, and I want it to be more than just a cafe. I want it to be really what my customers want it to be, and what they need it to be at whatever times. So like this, we've got like a co-working space. There's people that just come for the co-work. There's people that come for the books. There's people that come just to connect with their, you know, their other half and little families. And there's the elderly that tend to come in the mornings for a little catch up or just on their own. So yeah, it was kind of, for me, it was like trying to close that gap and give artists and people, especially like from the BAME community, more of a platform and a way to get their work out there to the community without having to spend lots of money. A lot of our features are free, the booth is free, the screens are free, like with the HDMI wires, the sockets that I put in, the Wi-Fi is free, things like that. So just to make it easier, really.
No, and that's really amazing to hear. Thank you so much. So, Fallaq, thank you so much for sharing what you have up till now. You mentioned that you've obviously had to do a little bit of research. There's so much in terms of um, what is required when it comes to like coffee, because like you said, there's so many different types. You've also spoken about the Skylight Lounge being kind of a creative community hub, the idea of creating this connection between art and creativity and community. I guess I'd like to know, because obviously this is the book club show, we love talking about books. What do you have currently, or what is the most recent book that you've read? I'd be really interested to know.
So actually, what I've been trying to read for a long time and I've started is The Sealed Nectar. So I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but it's the biography of our Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. It took me a while to get into it because the first kind of chapter goes into like the Arabian tribe history, which is probably like valuable information to like historians and things like that, and it goes really in depth. So yeah, it was like, don't ask me anything about that bit because I can barely remember apart from like the like the popular tribes that we've heard about and that are mentioned in the Quran, and like Bani Israel and stuff like that. So, but then straight after it started to actually start on the biography, and that's when I got really sucked into it. And at the same time, I've been studying Islam as well, so it was coinciding with learning about the Sunnah and all of that. So yeah, it's actually a really, really amazing book. I can't wait to finish it, to be honest. But I think the last full book I read was Reclaim Your Heart by Yasmin Mujahid. And that was a really vital book, almost like it was something that I really needed to read at that time. And I think I don't know if it's too big to say, but I would say that it even changed my life and perspectives on the way that I should live and the way we should worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and all of that. So yeah, those are the kind of my last read and my currently reading book.
No, and I love that you've shared both. I remember I was younger when I started reading The Sealed Nectar, but more recently I bought another version which also has kind of different photographs and things like that. And so you're right, it's such a beautiful read. And anything, when it comes to the seerah of the Prophet Sallallahu, I think it is such a beautiful way, because obviously we know as Muslims we want to kind of emulate him and we want to follow his sunnah, and actually what better way than actually learning about his life and his journey. Yeah, and totally with Reclaim Your Heart by Yasmin Mujahid. I know she was recently in Newton to do an event and it was sold out. I was kind of passing by, I didn't go myself, but it's really beautiful to see just like a queue of like women kind of excited and waiting to go in to see her talk. And yeah, and I remember I think I had a similar feeling with Reclaim Your Heart, and I remember I think one of the main things that always stayed with me is the idea of kind of attachment and what we attach ourselves to, whether it's material things or even people. I just really remember that's something that's definitely stayed with me for up till now. So no,
I think that's the same for me. Like, it was the realization that the first love that we should have is Allah, and even not attaching yourself to like whether it's even like there's such thing as putting too much love into whether it's your parent, a spouse, or like Allah should always come first. But just how the right way to live is and the balance of all of that, like that was, I think, the big takeaway for me too.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, you're right, because it's even with me, I think that kind of viewpoint on what, when we talk about love, what do we actually mean? Because I guess living in the West and the way social media is and all these kind of messages that we get, we kind of think of love as this I don't know, this kind of thing, you just fall in love and it's all about this kind of whirlwind thing. It kind of gets, I guess, a bit I guess we misconstrue what love is, but you're right. Ultimately, we want to strive for Allah's love, and actually the love that we do receive from people, that is, I guess, in a way, a manifestation of Allah's love for us, and vice versa, and it's such a
and it
beautiful
should be for the sake of Him rather than like over Him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the one question that popped out to me at that time was, if somebody asked you, who do you love the most, would your initial reaction have been Allah? And I think and I tested it amongst people, and it wasn't. And it just went to show that really that it should be, and that we have to be conscious about that and things like that, basically.
This program will continue after the break. Continue listening to Inspire FM. Inspire FM.
Inspire 105.1 FM.
Staying safe in the summer on Inspire FM. Individuals would have to avoid looking directly in the sun, as this can cause serious eye damage.
A large and elegant wedding and events venue in the heart of Luton, catering for up to 1,200 guests, with a 5-star food hygiene rating, plenty of parking, bridal suite, family rooms and prayer facilities. Crescent Hall's the perfect venue for your wedding, events, parties and conferences. We have some great offers for summer. Contact us to find out more. Call 01582 723386. Email bookings@crescenthall.co.uk or search for us online and social media. Crescent Hall, Luton. Conditions apply.
Days of Ashura on Inspire FM. Join us in fasting and reflection on Ashura, a day of peace and unity in Islam. Let's come together in prayer, charity and solidarity for all. On Ashura, let's remember the sacrifice of Musa alayhi salam and the struggles of the Prophet. Join us as we honor the hardships of the Prophets and seek forgiveness for our wrongdoings.
आइडियल प्रॉपर्टीज 20 साल से आपकी खिदमत में पेश आपकी प्रॉपर्टी की सारी जिम्मेदारी अब हमारी। हम अच्छी तरह से जांच पड़ताल करके किराएदार डालते हैं और आपको किराया बर वक्त गारंटी के साथ दिलवाते हैं। अगर आप प्रॉपर्टी किराए पर लेने या फरोख्त करने का सोच रहे हैं तो आज ही हमारे तजुर्बाकार माहिरीन से राब्ता कीजिए 01582721110 या फिर 01582696050। आइडियल प्रॉपर्टीज, आपकी मदद हमारा एन फरीजा।
AK Windows South Limited, manufacturers and installers of high-quality UPVC windows and doors, bifold doors, composite doors, conservatories, porches, skypods, fascias, guttering, and much, much more. We specialize in double glazing and triple glazing using the best German profile. If you want quality at affordable prices, AK Windows is the place to go. If your house needs a facelift, you know who to trust. For a free quote, call AK Windows today on 01582 483 777 or visit us at Unit 10E, Britannia Estate, Leagrave Road, Luton.
ومن يتق الله يجعل له مخرجا ويرزقه من حيث لا يحتسب। अरे मेरे बंदे सबको छोड़ मुझसे डर के जिंदगी गुजार, मैं तेरी हर मुश्किल दूर कर दूंगा।
Did you know that over 361,000 children die every year due to lack of clean water? Clean water is not a luxury, but a basic human right. UKIM is working to end their suffering by providing clean and safe water. Make a difference. Provide clean and safe water with UKIM. For donations, call now or visit ukim.org.
Assalamu alaikum, this is Mariam.
This is Anissa.
And this is Sonia. And we are Sisters Speak.
Sisters Speak is a weekly discussion program where us girls discuss a variety of topics.
Just to give a few, our topics range from politics and education to social media and identity. So please join the discussion by tuning in to Sisters Speak. Tune in on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. on Inspire 105.1 FM. And also find us on Instagram at Sisters Speak.
From the studios of Inspire FM, the time is now 10:30.
No, exactly. No, and that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, and it's so interesting, isn't it? Because I guess, especially when it comes to things like food and drink, you're right. We're so used to now mass production. And yeah, I've always been interested because, I'll have friends who'll say, no, actually, I prefer the coffee from a particular outlet or, over another. I've never really understood what the difference might be. But yeah, of course, that would make sense because, if you're, like you said, if it's a specialty coffee, obviously it will be made in a certain way, according to a certain method. So naturally, that would affect the outcome. So now, like, am I right in understanding? Because I'm thinking even from a historical perspective on coffee, I've heard that back whenever it would have been, a lot of kind of Muslim scholars and teachers, kind of who would want to reflect deeply, spend the night in kind of contemplation. They used to drink what I guess would be similar to coffee, because the idea is obviously it's a stimulant, and so I've kind of heard that as well.
Yeah.
So like so is there a benefit to actual like coffee as well, like actually drinking coffee, or is it just people just have it for the taste?
Definitely, yeah, there's definitely benefits. I think there's been a lot of studies done, and you're right, you're absolutely right about like where and how coffee originated, and it was used to like drink so that people could stay up for the Hajj and things like that. Obviously we know that anything that's kind of been recommended or being used in, like in the Sunnah and the Seerah is something that we should always take on. So I could never for example, like milk is mentioned in the Quran. In my eyes, milk could never be a bad thing for a human. Or like honey and all the things that I mentioned. So I would definitely class like coffee into that as well. There's a lot of antioxidants in coffee. There can be negative effects, and it's not for everyone. It can give people like elevated heart rates and things like that. So if some people who suffer with anxiety tend to stay away from it and things like that. But it's really good for metabolism. So it kind of like helps your metabolism function in like a more of a regular pattern, to say. Yeah, and then there's things like matcha that have kind of come as a replacement for coffee with more antioxidants, but it still contains caffeine. So yeah, anything in excess is bad for you anyway, but I think in moderation, it could actually be good for you for sure.
No, absolutely. I mean, I just speaking with you, I'm kind of feeling I'm already getting one over. I always have this kind of urge to go to a coffee shop and buy some coffee. But it's really strange. So I've got two daughters, and even though she's still quite young, I don't know how she's developed a taste for. So obviously she doesn't have like full on coffee. I mean, she's only 14.
Yeah.
She'll be 15 soon. But I know she definitely has, like, she does enjoy it in, for example, the coffee, whether it's chocolates, whatever, or she might have the odd latte, as a treat.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of interesting, But do you think over time it's also now become a bit of a trend? Do you think that that's a positive thing in some ways, or and how does that kind of play into the fact that obviously you've now running this, you're running obviously Skylight Lounge, and how's it been? Because obviously you've only been open a very, very short time. Like, how has it been received? How have you been kind of experiencing it as well?
Yeah, so it's definitely more of a trend, and that's something that I noticed, especially post-COVID. I think people missed it a lot, like being able to sit in a coffee shop and things like that. And then it's just become more hip. Definitely younger people are drinking coffee now, whether it's in a frappuccino, whether it's like, like I don't know, a sweet milky matcha. Well, you wouldn't put it in a matcha, but like them kind of like sweet kind of Spanish latte, for example, that's a good example, or a pistachio latte. These have all become like popular drinks, and obviously with the addition of TikTok and Instagram, and there's like coffee TikTok, there's coffee Instagram, so where people are just recreating drinks or creating their own drinks, and this has like pushed all of that. And I've got a 16-year-old cousin who's she wants to train up as a barista because it's a cool job to have. Whereas, whereas back in the day, it would have just been seen as, you know, it probably would have been looked down upon by some people. Whereas now people are doing barista training or courses or workshops for fun. So yeah, there's been a big shift in that side of things, and I think it's definitely a good thing, especially for like Muslims, because we don't really have many places that we can go where we feel entirely comfortable. And that's why when you go to like you know, predominantly Muslim countries, is the cafe culture there always seems to be thriving. They're always open till like 2-3 o'clock in the morning and things like that. You know, there's shisha bars and places like this, but they're, you know, they're not for everyone, and they don't always align with our values and things like that. And so yeah, and you can't really sit and chat in a restaurant for long periods of time. We're lucky we've got like dessert places, but again, it's a similar thing. So yeah, I think we definitely need more of these spaces, and that was my idea behind it. That it can be used for everyone. Like, that's the one thing I love about what I've seen in the last month and how it's going. And one thing I've kind of realized is that I have such a diverse customer range, and everyone loves it for their own reason. And it can be you know, entirely different to another person's reason. They, you know, the elderly love it to come and have their like chat, and you know, or whether it's, you know, with their friends, or if they come in by themselves, they're looking for, you know, social interaction, someone to talk to. My favorite part has just been like lending an ear and getting to know these customers. Like, if it's one thing that has made it feel worth it to me, is that, and realizing how much the community says they need a place like this, and that they're so happy that a place like this has come to them. You know, it made me, I almost underestimated how much the demand for it would have been, and the feedback has reinforced that for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely trendy, definitely needed. But yeah, like one of the things that I kind of based my research on, and I might be waffling a bit here, but it was my friend sent me an article about this gentleman, a Yemeni gentleman in America, who, when he came here, went to America, didn't have much, and his family had a coffee farm. So one day he just thought to kind of open his own little coffee shop. So he got the beans imported and set everything up, and this coffee shop became like absolutely, you know, like, it was amazing, and the community just loved it so much. And he kind of tailored it around his community. Like, in his interview, he was like, if my customers want to stay till 2:30 in the morning, we stay up until 2:30 in the morning. You know, in Ramadan, he talked about it being in Ramadan and how he like altered the timings and stuff to suit the community, and his diverse customer range. It wasn't just Muslims, and there was like a couple of like notes from customers, and how they would travel far and wide to get to this place. And it's now become a franchise. And one of the things that he said was that it's not a mosque, it's not a church, it's not a community centre, it's just a cafe, but it's a cafe that makes everyone feel welcome. And I quoted that. I saved it and I quoted it, and I thought to myself, that's what I want to do, a space for everyone.
And I think it's such a beautiful intention to have, I guess, both for him and for yourself as well. You know, what I'm really interested to know also is, what about the name? Like, I love the name, and I want to know who came up with the name and why, and what's, you know, kind of what's the meaning behind it.
The name Sky and Light are actually the meanings of my full name in English. In layman's terms, so like Fallaq and Ujala is my last name, which not many people know. But yeah, it's just kind of like the first English word, and it kind of became a nickname when I was about 17, 18 years old. It wasn't used all the time, but when I was talking about opening it, like a few friends had said, "Oh, you need to name it something to do with Skylight, and it sounds nice." And I actually wasn't thinking of doing it. I had a different name in mind, but when I was starting to get feedback from people, they were just a bit like, "Huh? Like, what does that mean?" And then all of a sudden, it was just meant to be, because when I'd initially just checked, like, if there was a trading company under Skylight Lounge or anything like that, it was saying that there was. But when it came to actually registering my limited company, the name that I'd chosen was taken, which was, it was such a, it's actually, it was going to be named after a drink that's not very well known, but it's called a lungo. And all it is like a long extraction of an espresso, which is almost like, kind of like a diluted version, but not, because the extraction is different to dilution, if you know what I mean. And it was taken, so I was like, oh, let me just see if Skylight is available, and it was. So I guess it was just meant to be. And then everything else, I'm not sure if you've seen pictures or anything of the inside, but we just kind of built around it. So the moon feature that we've got like a moon sculpture that we made and put at the back, in our cozy corner next to the bookshelf, and stuff like that. And yeah, it just worked. So, and the reason.
Oh, sorry. Go on. No, I'm really enjoying listening to you. Go on.
Thank you. The reason why I went for lounge, even though I thought people might think it's a shisha bar or something like that, was because I felt like a cafe would have restricted what the concept was going to be about. And at one point I was thinking of calling it like the space or something like that. So I wanted to kind of put the lounge to be like an umbrella term, so it can mean whatever it really wants to mean, what like needs to mean. Because in the we're looking to open late and have a bit more of a social atmosphere in the evening, for people who want, whether they still want to carry on working or whether they want to enjoy some mocktails or and things like that. So yeah, that's the reason why I went for that name in the end.
No, and honestly, I do. I kind of absolutely love the name, and more so because obviously there's such a strong connection to your name, which I think is so beautiful as well. And actually, you've kind of partly answered what was going to be my next question. So let's say there's someone like me who doesn't live in Bradford, and like me, they also really want to come to Skylight Lounge. What would they expect, i.e., kind of when they enter the space, but then also in terms of the menu? So if there is somebody who maybe doesn't quite drink coffee, or like you said, you haven't quite I can't remember if you mentioned it, whether you are serving food or not, but yeah, it just give kind of a bit of an overview of what a customer might expect as they walk in.
Yeah, so it's a little bit different to traditional specialty shops. They tend to just stick with the real thing, but I had to think about where I was based and it being Bradford and what my audience was going to be. Like, for example, most specialty shops will not serve as like beyond a certain size, which is around 150 to 210 mil, and that can be considered quite small for most people who are used to, like, for example, a 12-ounce cup from Starbucks. And the reason being is because the coffee is entirely different. So if you were going to put it into a 12-ounce cup, it will be so diluted that you will barely taste it. But I knew that was going to be an issue with my customers, and I wanted to give them as many choices as possible. So literally, you can almost ask for any drink here and we'll most likely be able to make it. And that's what I wanted it to be, whether, so it's suitable for the coffee connoisseurs, but it's suitable for the people that are used to Starbucks and are used to, like the larger drinks and the sweeter drinks and the fancier drinks and things like that. So I've tried to pack a lot in, and it's, to be honest, it's not been difficult to do. And it's great because it gives the customer the choices that they want. We've got a huge syrup range. We have like things like cortado and piccolo on our menu, which not many many like standard coffee shops do. We also have like really popular drinks that are actually not even coffee based. So our matcha is really, really well. We have a chai which is named after my late nanny Ma. It's called the Nan's chai because it was her favorite drink. That's extremely popular. Almost, I would say, on par with the coffee. That's how much we sell of it. Yes, and we have a Biscoff chai, which is one of our specialty drinks. So really, I just kind of see what the customers after. For some people, like our regular, we've got loads of different cup sizes, different styles. We've got like glass cups, we've got porcelain cups, we've got like just basically a huge variety, and we can just tailor that to the customer.
And the fact that, it's called a lounge as well, like in my head, I'm thinking, oh, like it's probably got some sofas. Like, what's the seating like? Is it just kind of tables and chairs how you'd normally expect, or is there different places people can sit? And, because you mentioned there's like a book corner and stuff like that. So yeah.
Without sounding like I'm blowing my own trumpet.
Oh, please do. That's why you're on the show. I want you to.
I genuinely don't think there's another place designed like it. It took a lot of thought process, and I was worried that I wouldn't be able to actually deliver it. There was a lot of things I had to think about, but genuinely people's reactions first off the bat are like, wow. People have asked me who my interior designer was, which contractors I've got in. And it was all just me. So with the help of a few friends, we had one joiner that did like the bar and things like that. So when you walk in, the way people would describe it is like it's quite warm and cozy. So we've got like lime washed walls, we've got a long kind of stretch of seating with benched seating and worn out leather benches. We've got different styles of chairs. So we've got like a navy velvet, we've got kind of the industrial leather seats, and then when you go towards the back, the lounge aspect of it is, yes, we've got a sofa, quite a nice one, a dark blue velvet sofa and then we've got the darker navy wall behind it, dark wood bookshelf, and then we've got the moon feature right centered in the middle of the sofa. I'm looking to get some armchairs. There's a few little things that I'm still waiting to do and things like that. And along the long stretch of bench seating, we've got paneling above that where the artwork is displayed. And then in the little corners, we've got the workstations. We've got like a fold down bench with screens attached so you can have a dual setup. We've got the booth that I'm currently recording in right now, which can be used as a meeting booth, podcast recording, radio station recording, whatever it may be. So yeah, there's a lot going on, and that's what I was worried about, like how am I going to tie it all together? I had to think about the lighting. So our lighting can change color, it's dimmable. So we can change it in the evening. We've got table lamps that can change and dim. We didn't want it too bright for people that are working from here and, like worry of glare and things like that. And anybody who's got like sensory requirements and things like that. So yeah, it's a lot, but it somehow works. And that's what I try to do, if you know what I mean.
No, I know what you mean, SubhanAllah. I think it's so, great to hear. I can sense the amount of kind of love and thought that's been put into it. And I'm sure, anyone who kind of goes there will definitely feel it. I do want to say that as soon as you are ready to kind of franchise, like obviously just come to Luton, please, because I would love to have a space like that in Luton, because you're right, you kind of mentioned a bit earlier about kind of post-COVID, and obviously so many of us miss that social interaction. And I guess more importantly as Muslims, obviously we don't of course, we don't go to pubs and, like you said, shisha houses and everybody. So it's really important to have like a space like this, which has like you said, kind of diversity of customers. And And I think, to be so responsive, I guess, to customer needs in terms of what they want, not just in terms of the drinks, but, even the space, the way you've described it, I think is amazing. And also a completely side point, but, the fact that because of, what's been going on, the genocide in Palestine, and there's a lot of going on in terms of kind of boycotting and divestment, it's good that we're able to have alternative spaces. And I think even as Muslims in our own communities, we need to be, I think anyway, a bit better at supporting our own kind of initiatives. I think it's so important, especially when it's kind of being done to cater for us, I guess, in some way. And I say the same even when it comes to books and the importance of supporting independent bookshops and all these things. I think it's so, I guess in some ways kind of crucial, that we always have other options. And and I think it's great that you've I guess had this vision, had this intention that now alhamdulillah it's kind of come into being. And just to finish off, so where exactly are you based? So someone's visiting Bradford, where do they find you? Is there parking, or just those kind of, I guess, logistical details for anyone who might want to visit?
Yeah, I just want to say, like, I forgot to mention all of the things that you just mentioned, but yeah, definitely it's all 100%. We need it more now than we ever did. And I honestly, people say that people are going to copy you or whatever, but I mean, as long as it's not an exact copy, I think we need more of these spaces. So I wouldn't, I would be happy to hear that this is happening. But yeah, you can find us in, well, if you're Bradford, and you know that we kind of allocate everything by postcode. So in BD2, we're in the BD2 area, which is about 10 minutes from town, maybe less. We're on the 5-lane ends roundabout, about it's 2 doors away from Greg's, and there's a retail park near us. It's kind of a bit of a main route to get into like Shipley, Bingley, Leeds. We do have parking. We have shared parking with the other units along kind of, we're like an L-shaped unit almost. So you can park anywhere there. Also, like there's a gym next to us and a carpet shop. People just kind of park anywhere, and whether they park at the gym and come here or vice versa. They're all really lovely, like business owners, and nobody really minds. There's a lot of street parking as well without any permits or double yellows. There's 2 direct bus routes because we're kind of on a cross section of a roundabout. So we've got 2 roads on either side. We've got, I think, Bradford Road and Norman Lane. So yeah, there's 2 or 3 bus routes almost that will come directly here. So yeah, I tried to get the best location that I could, especially in terms of parking and traveling and things like that. It's more of an upcoming area and a developing need for this here. So it's a bit further away from like the main strips of Bradford, like for example Leeds Road and Great Horton Road, which are almost like the Wilmslow Road of Manchester that I think everybody's heard of. So yeah, it's or what's the like Green Street almost in London, if you were to give an example. So it's about 5 minutes away from kind of those areas. But yeah, there's definitely a growing Muslim population in this side of town as well. So
no, that's great, and it sounds really accessible as well, which is fantastic. And what about if anyone wants to follow like online or social media? Where can they follow Skylight Lounge? Is that the social media handle? That'd be really great to know.
Yeah, so we're the most up-to-date kind of updates get done on Instagram, and that's at the.skylight.lounge. On TikTok, it's just skylight.lounge. We're on Facebook. We'll hopefully have a website soon, inshallah, as well. But yeah, I think to stay on top of everything, Instagram is probably the best bet. We've got contact details on there as well for like our generic email address and a contact number for any kind of collaborations or general inquiries. But yeah, please follow.
Thank you. And thank you so much, Fallaq, for your time today. It's been an absolute joy hearing about Skylight Lounge. And definitely, inshallah, the next time I'm up north, I will make a special visit. Because, yeah.
Please do.
And obviously meet you in person. I know, you know, the radio isn't, well, I mean, it's always lovely to have a conversation over the radio.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, nice to meet in person. But thank you so much. Inshallah, everything goes, you know, really well in the coming weeks and months and years. And, yeah, you know, hopefully people will visit as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Jazakallah khair. It's been a pleasure, and I've thoroughly enjoyed talking about it as well.
Thank you, Jazakallah. So listeners, we were talking to Fallaq, who's the founder of a Skylight Lounge in Bradford. So definitely give them a follow on Instagram, and obviously if you're ever near in and around Bradford, pop along as well. I'll be back inshallah in a couple of weeks with a new guest talking about a new book. Until then, please do keep us in your du'as. Assalamu alaikum.
एक वक्फे के बाद साबरा हुसैन पेश करेंगी दीनी मालूमात पर मबनी प्रोग्राम दीन और दुनिया।